Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of People in Progress. I am super excited to sit down with the one and the only Hannah Sparks.
Oh, he had two sound effects going at once, but that was a nice try.
There you go.
All right.
It was supposed to be like, Hannah Sparks. That was better.
And then in my brain, there's that that's the one that's like, beep, 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 beep,
yeah, the ham radio.
Yeah, it's so good.
I need to find that. I have some sounds, but I don't have anything that's cool as that. So this is it. Like literally, this is it. This is your last week.
I know. I move in 3 days, and it still hasn't set in. Catherine and I have to sort through our kitchen today.
Oh.
And it'll be fine. I'm not taking much. Well, I'm moving in with my older sister in Bentonville, and
That's Arkansas for people who don't know.
Yes, Arkansas, where feet run free. The dogs have no leash. It is a good time. Dogs is in your feet again. But anyway, I'm moving in with my sister in Bentonville, and she actually has so much stuff already. That's, a lot of my stuff is hand-me-down, thanks to gracious people at many churches that just give me stuff that I get to use. But, maybe I don't need the skillet with the handle falling off, moving with me. Yeah. My cast iron, though, I'll be taking that. And but we'll see. Skylar and Whit, they gifted me a set of glasses, really nice for, I think, my birthday or Christmas. It was recent, and so I'm taking those. But yeah, not much besides that.
All right. I thought you were going to tell me that Whit and Skylar gave you the hot dog bun toaster that they got at the silent auction earlier this year, and I was going to be real jealous. So
wow. Well, you know what? Had that jealousy struck, I would have given it right back to you.
That's all right. No problem. So, hey, if you don't know, Hannah has been our youth pastor for these past 5 years and has done an incredible job. I'm going to save all the compliments for the end, but you're going to get to know Hannah a little bit better in this episode. And we've both been excited about this. I'm glad you squeezed us in here, like in the last few days before you head northeast.
Yeah. Well, one of my love languages is quality time. And so I feel like I never get enough time with people because I could spend forever in a day with somebody and never get tired, when they're like, I just love them a lot and you're one of those people. Oh. And so it's really easy to squeeze in time and make time and space for people like you. Well,
man, you're a blessing. And so let's get into it and we'll be all over the place today. Is that cool?
That's cool. That's all a more fun podcast. I think it's more entertaining to listen to. I love podcasts where it feels like I'm a fly on the wall, just on the side of the conversation. I could talk in the middle of it to myself, out loud in my car. So if you're one of those people, I hope you're in for a good time. And if you're not, we're just hanging out.
All right. So you're moving back to Arkansas because that's where you are
from. Yeah, vaguely. Yeah. So, I'm from Arkansas. I'm from Fort Smith, which is the River Valley. It's on the west border. It's literally next to Oklahoma.
Okay.
And
don't say Oklahoma too loud because there are some people in Texas that just despise everything about Oklahoma.
Well, all of you people who hate Oklahoma, you now can call it Joklahoma, just like Pastor Darren does. It's really good. But yeah, so I grew up there, and my parents, all my family, except for my older sister, they do still live in the Fort Smith area. Okay. And Bentonville is about an hour north, which feels like a long time, but also at the same time, I'll spend an hour taking students home on a Wednesday night on a van ride. So, it doesn't feel like that much space to me, to be able to drive that long,
Yeah. Yeah. And so you're not moving back because you got on staff at another church. Tell us why you're moving back home.
Yeah. So my dad has had some health scares in the past couple of years. He's had I think one time he had a pretty extensive hospital stay. He's just got a lot of heart problems and other health issues that, should he listen to this podcast, I don't want to embarrass him or put him on blast. So we'll just say some health complications. And, I'm going to make some people upset when I say this maybe, but I've actually known since about July of last year that I was leaving, which is so long. But I remember I went home for my dad to celebrate his birthday last summer. And I had started to contemplate what this could look like. And so I asked him while I was home, I said, Dad, I've been thinking and I'm starting to pray about the idea of moving home to have a season closer to you. And I said, how do you feel about that? And he said, Hannah, you have no idea how much it warms my heart to hear you say that. Aww. And so in that moment, that was kind of like the catalyst that propelled me to make this decision because, you know, not it wasn't just me. It was making a decision that was for me more than, you know, I knew that would impact other people's lives, you know, like my family. And not only, you know, it's something that they were welcoming of, you know, not just do whatever you want, you know, it's like.
Right. They were looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was like a really, really big pivotal moment that kind of led me to this decision. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of confirmation.
Okay. Yeah. And I've just feel, you know, God has been so gracious to offer a lot of moments of confirmation, a lot of moments of grace, lots of moments of support. You know, I don't know if I'll get another chance to say this in the podcast, but even now, like God has blessed our youth ministry with a wonderful team of leaders, and youth staff. And so, you know, that there's enough of a team that is going to be able to take it from my hands with a graceful transition. I'm not even worried at all about the youth group because I know that they, it really is such a beautiful community. God has blessed our youth ministry, especially after COVID. I was really scared it wasn't ever going to come back because we lost a lot of students to that time, just as many churches experienced.
Sure.
But God's faithfulness knows no end. And so it's been really cool to watch God, you know, form our youth group again. And even now I feel like it's in a much healthier place. Maybe that's partly because I'm a healthier leader than I was at 22.
Okay.
You know, but I'm very, very grateful for our youth group.
I am too. I'm grateful for your time and your investment in our students and their families. So being a recipient of one of those. So as a dad too. So cool. going to be close to home, close to dad. So tell us about family growing up. You kind of have a unique situation with your siblings.
Yeah. So, oh wow, getting it right out of the open. So, are you referring to that? I'm a triplet. Is that why?
I am. Which is really cool. I think it's really cool. But some people that get freaked out by like twins and triplets, they're like, I can't handle it.
Yeah, sure. So, in case you haven't known, for 5 years that you've known me out there listening, I am a triplet. It's not something I talk about because it's weird. Like, hey, my name's Hannah and I'm a triplet. Like it just doesn't naturally like come up in conversation. Right. So, yeah, so I was born.
So there are three Hannahs out there.
Well, what's crazy, they're nothing like me. We're all a heck of a time together. You know, Derek has met my family, all my sisters. Yep. Well, and because we had an ordination service 2 years ago now, which is crazy.
That's been 2 years.
It's one of ours 25. I turned 25 on my ordination day.
A million years ago.
Yeah. And yeah, so you met my family and my sisters are all so fun and we get along so well now. Obviously teenage angst was in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I grew up in Fort Smith, Arkansas area, and my dad worked as a Chick-fil-A operator. He owned a Chick-fil-A. And he started working for Chick-fil-A when he was, I think, 16 or 17. And so he grew up and then ended up taking his franchise. And then met my mom, I think, at a house party or something. And so they met and then they got together and then they got married. And then they had my older sister, Selah, first. And then 11 and a half months later, they had us three. We were
Mercy, that is a handful.
I know. It's a lot. You know, I spend time with students or kids now, and I just think like, I don't know, four at once is a lot. And takes long days and lots of patience. So, yeah, it was really, really great. I think the benefit of it that people don't talk about, and if you're out there and you have a lot of siblings, or you have a lot of kids, you might know like, they really entertain each other. We were always hanging out with each other growing up. And I can't remember a time that I really like pestered my parents to be like, Mom, will you play with me? You know, it wasn't ever.
You already had built-in friends.
Literally. Yeah. Okay. So, and if I was mad at Alaska, say, and then I would just go to Sealand and play with her instead. It's not we had teams. It was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so grew up, and then whenever I was in, I don't know how old I was. It was like in first grade maybe. My parents got divorced, and so my mom, she went and got a house around Fort Smith, and she was working as a bartender. And then my dad was still doing his Chick-fil-A thing. And my mom ended up marrying a guy that was our plumber. He was, I don't know, doing a job on the house or something. And then she came in one day. I'm not sure if I really understood they were dating because I remember I was sitting on the couch, and one day it's like I can picture it now. I can look around and see the front door open. It's bright. The light's coming in. And my mom's waving this paper, and she's saying, we're married. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what that means, but I was like, yeah, everyone's so excited. So I'm excited. And with that marriage, I got 4 siblings. I got 3 brothers and another sister. And
okay. So really there's 8 of you.
And then 10, including the 2 on my stepmom's side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So, so I got Jamie, he's my older brother, and Tyler, and then Dylan, and then Karis, my younger sister, who I just love so dearly, and I really enjoy spending time with her. And then, we ended up moving out to Alma, Arkansas, which is like 30 minutes away. And we went to school there from 3rd grade to the end, till graduation. And then my dad married in 2006 to my stepmom, and I loved Terry. She was just such a needed person in my life. At my dad's house, we got Evan, who's my older brother, and Laura, who's my older sister, and they're in the world doing great things. And that's kind of my family tree. Okay. And in fact, I have sorry if you are offended by tattoos. I have a tattoo on my shoulder, and it's like a triangle, and it has all these like circles in it. If they're filled in, it's like a blood sibling. If it's like not, then it's like a step sibling. And so but I have like a family triangle on my shoulder. That's like
family triangle.
I know.
See what you did there.
Yes, it's a matching tattoo. My sister came up with it, and she's like, we should get matching tattoos. And I thought, why can't we get matching socks instead? But I was like, okay, whatever. So we did that, and now it's on my body forever. All the
siblings have the family triangle?
The four main squad. Yeah.
The OGs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not all the step siblings. Sorry.
Okay.
If you guys feel, if you're my step sibling and you're listening to this and you feel left out,
it's not too late.
It's not too late. You can get one. Get one that's a little bit jaggedy on the edges like mine. It's really nice. I think my tattoo artist might have sneezed in the middle of it. No, I'm kidding.
What? Okay, so you moved to Alma.
I know. The alma mater, right, is what they'd say whenever I'd play in marching band.
Okay, well, that helps me pronounce it properly. So tell us about High School Hannah. What was High School Hannah into?
Oh, High School Hannah was like a nerd and a goody two-shoes for sure. Like even I would say like in my faith story, there was a part of my time where I kind of walked away from God, but even in the midst of that, at the heart of who I am, I think, am a rule follower. Okay. I hate being rebellious. I hate making decisions that I think are going to offend somebody. People pleasing, it's there. And so, I loved high school. I had a best friend. Her name was Casey, and I'm excited to see her when I get to move home again. We kind of did, we were always together. We always hung out. We had, friends at lunch, and my extracurriculars were choir and band. Because like I said, nerd. But I loved it, man.
I didn't say that.
I had such a great time. And then I loved choir, and I loved band. I left band my senior year because I kind of realized that it wasn't going to be my future, and it was taking a lot of time. And then
band is time intensive.
Yes.
Turns out.
Yeah. So I also had a job. I got a job at Chick-fil-A when I turned 14. So at the end of my 8th grade year. And
wow, that was legal in Arkansas.
well, I don't know if it was just special treatment because my dad owned the place, but I did get a work permit just to make sure we didn't like run into any weird lines or something.
Child labor laws.
Yeah, so I did that. So yeah, by the time I was like, yeah, I think I want to pick up more hours or something. Summer was coming, like whatever. But then I took another choir class instead because I think I was in like 2 or 3 choir classes my senior year. Because I had nothing better to do and I liked it. So I did all
your credits and you're just like, I'm going to sing out my senior year.
Sing it out. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. I had a good time.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us, you kind of mentioned felt like you walked away from faith. What was faith like growing up? Was it present in the home? Were you like church every Easter and Christmas, or that was like your weekly deal? Tell us what did the connection with Jesus look like for you growing up?
Yeah. So we grew up going to church a bit, and my dad is a Nazarene, and I didn't find out till later in life that my grandpa was a Nazarene pastor, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I still don't know that whole story, but that's just a piece of the story. And so my dad, whenever we'd go to church, it'd be at the Nazarene church. And I remember, we would go with our dad, and then when my parents got divorced, we ended up going a little bit less. But once we got to the point, that we wanted to go to church, our dad would come pick us up. And what I can see now is how much my dad loved us, because, we would say, Dad, can you give us a ride to church this week, even though we're at Mom's? And my dad would drive 30 minutes one way to come pick us up, to take us 30 minutes back to church, to take us 30 minutes back to my mom's, to drive 30 minutes back home. So he's spending 2 hours on a Wednesday night driving his kids that want to go to church. And that's
a good dad.
Yeah, he's great. And so, I really had a lot of good friends in youth group. And so we went because we just loved everybody. It was such a fun group at the time. We had people that were like really adventurous and outgoing, and the group that's like pretty rebellious, and like we had a little bit of everything, and it was so fun just to see everybody come together. We all had a great time. So like youth events really kept me into the church. Youth group is what kept me in the church. Part of the reason I walked away from the faith, that I'll keep it kind of like service level for podcast, but on my mom's side, my mom had gotten in a car wreck whenever I was in 4th grade, and she broke her neck and back. And her journey after that to recovery in a way, included a lot of pills, and she would sometimes take too many, and then other people would take too many. And so that just ended up equating to some abusive elements in the household. And so my mom was kind of a C&E Christian, church, Christmas and Easter. Yeah. And, but I love my mom, and kids look up to their parents. Right. Absolutely. And so I just, I am hearing this message of like, yeah, we believe in God, and, we have that in one hand, and in the other we have abuse. And so I thought, well, if this is what this is all about, then maybe I don't really want to be a part of that.
Yeah, hard to reconcile those two.
And so I, kind of on my own, walked away from the faith for a little bit. I don't know, maybe like a year-ish, which as a teenager feels like forever, right? Because you've only lived so many years. Right. It's a long and so it's like, life. Wow, it really was. It really felt like it. But now, I remember I went to church camp my first time, and there was a guy named Blair that was speaking. And Blair shared this message that was focused with poker. And my mom was a bartender. We played poker at the house all the time. So I was like, okay, I can get on board with this illustration. And so he talked about, obviously in poker, there's this thing about going all in. And so, I made that decision that night to go all in. And my prayer really consisted of like, okay, God, if you're really there, if this is really it, I'm going to give you one more chance. But if you screw it up, I'm not coming back. And surprise. God didn't mess up, because God doesn't mess up.
Right.
And so just a lot of prayers during that time. My main prayer was forgiveness. And that was a really, really long journey that took a lot of years for me. From reading, that we need to forgive other people.
Right.
And then I think, well, I can't do that. So my prayer was, God, I need you to forgive them for me, because I can't. And that ended up over probably a few years of that prayer, positioning my heart to forgive them myself.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
I'm glad you shared that, because sometimes we hear about forgiveness as like this, oh yeah, I forgive them, or I forgive myself. But honestly, it really is more of a process than it is, just a one-time decision. And I think that's where it starts, in that decision. I know I need to forgive them because it's hurting me more than it's hurting them.
So I'm going to say it out loud just for the sake of it, right?
Yeah, yeah. But to hear how it's worked in your life, like, there are some people that we just have to keep forgiving. And only God can help us do that, because I don't want to do that, because they were jerks and what they did to hurt, and it does really matter.
Yeah.
And it is a big deal.
For sure. If it helps you to picture something, Ann Honer, the pastor at Copper's Cove, and I had a car ride one time, and I was talking to her, which speaks a lot into my journey of forgiveness, because I was a young adult here as a pastor, and still saying, Ann, for some reason, this hit me again, and I just don't know what to do, because I thought I was past this. I thought I had forgiven. I thought this was, a done chapter of my life, and here I am again. And she kind of explained to me, like, if you open up a pen, like we all do in school, right, or whatever, we take a pen apart, and you see a little spring, and she says, you start at the bottom, and you go up, and then you hit that same spot again. And it feels like you're back at the bottom, but really you've made progress. So you keep going, and you keep going, and you keep going. And, one day you're 8 levels up, but you feel like you're at the first square because you're forgiving again. And why does this still hurt? Why does it still feel, why am I still angry? Is it really forgiveness? Well, the answer is yes, it still is forgiveness, because you're making this effort in prayer and in heart to do this. And so that just really helped me, because, now obviously, on a pen, you might have 12 points, and you're like, well, this spring is done. But Christ even talks about that. How many times should we forgive? 7 times 70, which isn't, 140 or whatever, or 740, whatever. But it's just really...
I'm not going to check your math.
It's really just as many times as it takes. And God's going to be with you every time it takes it.
Yeah, and he's the one that helps us keep bringing it back.
Yeah.
Because we're bringing it to him, really.
For sure.
Because we won't do it on our own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was kind of like where my faith started to really blossom, was probably my sophomore, junior year of high school. Okay. Probably my sophomore year. And I just really started to fall in love with the Lord, and I started to fall in love with God's word. And I started, there's this older guy in my youth group. His name was Cody, and he'd gone on a mission trip. And I was like, that sounds really cool. So I wanted to do that. And I got my dad's permission to fundraise, and I went on my first mission trip after my junior year of high school, and I went to Peru for 10 days. Yeah, it was awesome. So that's really, and that's where God started to even work in my heart about getting a call to cross-cultural ministry or mission work, as some people like to say. I usually say cross-cultural ministry because I don't want to have a colonizer feel to it, because some people are like, missionaries are a bunch of, this type of people, and I'm not that type of people. So,
All right. Craziest thing you ate in Peru?
Oh, you know what? I wanted to eat, but didn't get to eat. All my stuff was super basic. I ate PB&Js like every day, and then then we ate at the hotel. Yeah, for real. But one of the dishes of Peru that is really unique is guinea pig.
That's what I was wondering, because I've heard about that, like grilled guinea pig.
I know. No, I didn't. I didn't eat that. I would have loved to have the opportunity, because I'm always down for something unique. I'm not going to position it as a gross thing or anything like that, because that's something that a culture really likes. Sure. But it would have been a really neat opportunity to do that. But I didn't get that. I will tell you, if you like root beer, you like cream soda or anything like that, which I hate, but they have a drink called Inca Cola, and it's very similar. And if you ever, I drank that, and it wasn't my favorite. But if you're into that and you ever see that drink, go for it.
Okay. I wonder if they have that at Cracker Barrel. They have all the different sodas now. Probably not
I don't
out
know.
of country.
But if you go to any Peruvian restaurant, they'll have it. They'll have that, which was like, yeah. Well, here, let me give you a breakdown. You go to a Peruvian restaurant, they have some in Austin.
Okay.
Yeah, you can eat lomo saltado, which is like a beef stir fry, and then drink any Coca-Cola. And then there's chicha morada, which is like a purple corn drink. And that's good too.
Purple corn drink. Whoa.
I know.
I'm learning a lot.
I know. It's good. Take yourself out. Take Christy out. Go on a Peruvian date and then tell me how you like it.
Sounds good. All right. Now, I noticed that your pronunciation of some of those Peruvian words was very specific and I would probably say accurate, but I don't know Peruvian. What is the language there? Is it
Spanish?
Spanish.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I studied Spanish in college, and and I worked with a Hispanic church while I was interning during my college years, and so
which was
Trinity.
Trinity
Under Pastor Gabby Rodriguez. She is
now
the best.
The lead pastor.
Yes,
at Trinity.
she's amazing. I'm her number one fan.
Yeah, I've heard 2 of her sermons, and both of them were. Wait, no, I've heard more than that because she was.
Yeah,
a camp
she's
speaker.
at camp a few years ago.
Incredible. God has blessed her.
Amen.
So you did that while you were in college at
Trinity. Oh, at SNU.
There it is.
Sorry, Southern
I've got a
Nazarene
banner
University.
in my office I can point to.
Yes.
Yeah, you went Southern Nazarene University. Came back to faith. Went on this mission trip. Was there anybody in that pivotal part of your life that really just, you can look back now and go, man, if they had not invested in me as a teenager, I would not be who I am right now?
Yeah, 100%. Her name is Amy Whittefield.
Oh, okay.
And she is the best. And the way she describes our meeting is that whenever I was a teenager, she and her family had moved from North Carolina to Fort Smith, and they started coming to our church. And she says I practically almost sat on her. I sat so close to her. And I was like, hi. Which I can see that. But, for me, I'm like, I can't really remember that meeting. But she's probably like, who's this weird kid?
One of those random kids again.
Yep, here they are. So I ended up really becoming good friends with her sons, Josh and Aaron. And we would just hang out all the time. And then I ended up... Amy just kind of took me under her wing, and I don't really know. It just happened so naturally that I can't really pinpoint the time or anything like that. But she, kind of taught me what it was to be a person of the faith. And, I remember asking her how to pray one time. And so she kind of walked me through understanding prayer. And, I would just see her so often. And she, visited me while I was in college. She came to my graduation. She's visited me here, not a diss to my parents because they may not always, have the means to, but I was really blessed that, she came. And even when I went home in October to visit, she was on a work trip, which is, I planned my trip home around her work trip so we could hang out.
Nice.
And she's just poured so much wisdom and prayer over my life for as long as I've known her, which now is getting on up, maybe 15 years now.
More than half your life.
Yeah, because God is good.
Yes.
Yeah, so she's who I would identify in my story as my hero.
Okay.
And she was like a mother to me. Yeah.
Awesome.
So very, very blessed to have her.
Thank God for those people.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Right.
Amen. Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
I was telling one of my students last week about her because I said, do you know what made, because this student is going through a hard time. And I said, do you know what made the difference in my life? And this person said, well, what? And I explained who Amy was to me. And I said, and because of that person, I knew that I was loved. I knew that God loved me. I knew that it was going to work out.
Yeah.
And I got to tell the student, I've known you for 5 years, and I've done all of these things for you. So when you look back at the church, and you look back at your time in youth group, I hope you remember it in a way that you were loved. And the student was like, yeah, for sure. So it's such a blessing because somebody showed me that love.
Right.
I now understand how to do that for others, and obviously that is rooted in Christ because we love because he first loved us,
There it is.
Man, it's amazing.
It's simpler than we make it sometimes, isn't it?
I love it. It's just wonderful. I love God. I love the church. And I love people who really embody the image of Christ. Yeah, it's awesome.
Wonderful. So you are poured into, you're mentored, you go on this mission trip, and then you land at Southern Nazarene University, which is in Bethany, Oklahoma.
Yes.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, there you go.
And so you study cross-cultural ministries, and you have 13 minors.
Yeah. So basically, my
Tell
degree,
us about that.
my degree was a multidisciplinary degree,
That's what
which sounds like 3 minors, but it's like a minor I think is 18 hours or 20 hours or something, and a multidis is like not a full major, but more than a minor. And so it's like you craft 2 or 3 things to make one major. And so I studied the missions program, I studied Spanish, and I studied mass communications. And all 3 have served me really well, especially as I've done a lot of media and design and video work here.
A lot of media. Yes. We're about to find out what Hannah did. We're going to be like, oh man, Hannah did that. Oh yeah. Oh, she did that too. Oh, great. Yeah. Now someone else has to do it.
I've prefaced with all of the staff. I said, please call me because I know you'll need to. And you're allowed to do that because in 3 months you won't call me as much. But for the first couple of weeks, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, yeah. So it's amazing how God can take all those little pieces and use them. I mean, even cross-cultural ministering to a different generation. I mean, you got to think. You can't think like.
I mean, you want to talk about learning another language. True. You know, I'm still young enough that most of it I catch on my own. Mm-hmm. But you know, in 5 or 10 years, I'm gonna be like, what does this mean? You know, so.
Right. Hey, I have to listen to that Access podcast for the slang of the week all the time.
That's
amazing. Not that my kids are talking, using those words all the time, but. Just so you know, because you're out of the loop fast when you get old like me.
See, you get it, Derek. You ate that up. Good job.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying to do it. Okay, some random questions. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No. No. Well, I don't like pizza, so I can't really claim pineapple on it. It doesn't make a difference to me.
And you don't like coffee.
Yeah.
What's something else that normal people like that you don't?
If you like celery or Brussels sprouts, I don't like those. I feel like that's an adult food to like, but I don't like them.
Well, if you put enough bacon on them, they
can
be good.
I still don't know. So I wonder, because everyone makes fun of my palate. Because I'll eat anything. I'm particular. I don't like to eat a lot of things, but if you put it in front of me, if I go to your house and you make me lasagna, I'm gonna eat it, even though I don't want to. You know, it's not like I'm gonna be like, ugh, you know. But yeah, I think I have extraordinarily strong bitter receptors on my tongue. If it's like a hint of bitter, I don't like it.
Okay.
Really interesting.
That makes sense on the coffee then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Smells great. Tastes terrible.
You're allowed to like what you like. I mean,
that's fine.
Yeah, you can do that. What about your favorite Bible verse or Bible passage story? Anything that you just keep coming back to? Or
I think one thing that stuck out to me for a long time is Jeremiah 29:13. Which says, if you seek me with all of your heart, you will find me. And this is right after what we understand is that Jeremiah 29:11 is, you know, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper and not to harm. And this is God speaking to Israel at the height of a terrible time for them. And, you know, they're like, man, God, would you save us out of this? And he's like, listen, first of all, you guys got yourself into this mess.
Right,
okay.
Yeah. It's all your fault.
But number 2, even though it's hard right now, it's going to be okay. Because listen to what I have for you. I have good things because I made you good and I'm going to restore that goodness. And so, but yeah, Jeremiah 29:13, if you seek me with all of your heart, you will find me, is encouraging and convicting at the same time. Because I'm like, wow, I'm so glad for the moments where I found Christ and where I see God moving. And then also, am I reading my Bible enough? Because it's been 2 months, you know, since you know, I mean, just in my thought process, because that's how conviction works, is you catch yourself, you know, slacking.
Am I really seeking?
Yeah.
With all my
am
heart?
I with all my heart, with all of my heart?
Yeah.
Because if it's part of your heart, you're going to be partially satisfied. But man, if you seek God with all of your heart, and you find them, you're going to be like, this is amazing.
Yeah, why was I messing with anything else?
And when I think about the highlights of my life, it's whenever all of my heart was in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not halfway.
Yeah. So same thing with our walk with God. So it's really encouraging and really, I say convicting, but really maybe I mean inspiring. It inspires me to move more towards God.
Motivating.
Instead of, oh yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So many words. English is hard.
That's your heart language, though, right?
It is. Doesn't make it not hard sometimes.
Right. Well, hey. One of the things that's important for us is we're trying to encourage everybody to live like Jesus every day, which would mean seeking the Father with all your heart, which basically means we're looking to God for direction. We're asking him questions. We're asking him for guidance. As Nazarenes and holiness people, you're starting to smile already.
I love our doctrine of holiness.
Me too. It really is just that idea that God he can have all of me. He can have my family, my finances, my future, whatever, my friends. At what point can you tell us? Some people can remember like a specific point, like I know where I was praying in that church or whatever. Yeah. Other people it was like, I don't really remember, but I know I've given everything to the Lord. Can you tell us like your story of full surrender or sanctification?
Yeah, I tell my students this because it was when I was in high school, and I remember the moment because I had been reading about Paul, and I had been reading his writings, and there was a part where he says like, it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. Mm-hmm. And so I remember I was leaving choir one day, go figure, one of my 3 classes made me, no, I'm kidding. It was my junior year. And I was walking out into what we call the promenade. And I just remember like, I was so like deep in thought about this passage because I thought, man, is Christ living through me? Because it was when I started to take my faith a little bit more seriously. And obviously it's not until you're a junior or senior in high school that you start becoming a little bit more mature anyway. And so yeah. So a lot of this stuff was like kind of the first time I was thinking about this. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, God, I want to be like Paul here. And I said, whatever it is you need from me to make that happen, where it's your life and not mine, then let's do that.
Man, that's awesome. That happened at a high school campus?
Yeah.
That's incredible. God can do anything.
It's amazing. Yeah. So that was the moment for me. Yeah. And then, the way that we like to describe sanctification, if that's ever been something that's hard for you to understand if you're a listener.
Because it sounds like a fancy word.
Yeah. The way Amy describes it, my hero, she says, when you're saved, you get Jesus. And whenever you're sanctified, Jesus gets all of you. Yeah. And so that moment for me was just that moment. But sanctification is both a moment and a process. And so, and so like that was a moment. But, as different things come up in my life, I have to surrender that to God all the same, right? So whenever I started dating a guy in my senior year, I was like, I have to surrender this relationship to God right now, Right. And, any relationship afterwards if you knew Christ your whole life, but then later you got married or you had kids, you're like, okay, I have to resurrender this to the Lord because I don't know if I can raise a kid on my own. This is really scary, Yeah,
absolutely.
Or like finances, you start making, get a job, start making money, especially if you get started like adult money and you're like, God, this is yours. I have to surrender this. And do you know what that means? If you're listening, you know what it means to surrender your finances to God? It means to tithe. Okay. That's hard to hear. And it's hard to do, I tell you what, but that says, God, I trust you with this. Because whenever we give all of who we are and we do that wholeheartedly, we feel even more blessed than before. So but there have been obviously plenty of times, God, what do I want to study in college? I'm going to give that to you. What do you want with my life? I'm going to give that to you. How do you want me to lead as a pastor? I'm going to give that to you too, even though sometimes I want to rely on my own wisdom. Well, it turns out I'm not that wise. Okay.
Well, turns out.
All those, there's so many moments.
Should I move to Texas and work for 2 crazy pastors and do this weird shared youth group thing?
That just made sense to me because I switched every week during the divorce. So like when you're like, let's do a ministry.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, where we switch every week. I was like, that's literally my whole life. Yeah, let's do it. It wasn't even difficult to make happen.
The lights are coming on. That deserves a sound effect.
That's good.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay, man. I'm going to use one of your own questions on you because you brought it up when you interviewed me for my podcast. Yes. And it's simply this. Is there anything that some story you wanted to share that you've never really had a good outlet for it anywhere else, but the podcast is perfect for sharing a story?
Yeah. So I was thinking about that on the way to record this podcast this morning because I have a lot of random stories. And I'm going to pick one that is just the most outlandish, like, what the heck was I doing kind of moment. So whenever I was, again, in college, I was the intern at Trinity. And on Wednesday nights, I would intern with the youth group. And so if you know me, you know I love Chick-fil-A. And every Wednesday after church, I would go get Chick-fil-A on my way home because it was like 2 streets down. There's no way.
Do you get a discount because your dad owned a Chick-fil-A?
Only at his, but not anymore since he retired. So full price forever.
Chick-fil-A Wednesday night after youth group.
There I am. Chick-fil-A. I decide, well, I'm going to go in because I need to use the restroom. So I might as well go in and get my order. And so I order and I use the restroom while I'm waiting. And then as I'm coming out of the restroom, I notice 2 very interestingly dressed women that I could tell were strippers. And so I just, whatever, not a big deal. It's Oklahoma City. I see people do different things all the time. And so I was coming out of the bathroom and I see one of them walking outside the window, like next to right outside the bathroom is the window to outside. Sorry to bump the mic, but this lady is like cussing at this guy that's inside the window, like inside the store where I'm at. She's outside and she's like flipping him off and like, it's just really crazy. And I'm thinking, mind your own business, Hannah. You do not get involved. Okay. So anyway, a few moments later, I get my food. I'm walking out to my car. And as I'm walking out to my car, this girl that had flipped off the other guys was walking down the street. And I hear the guys talking as I walk to my car thinking, please don't hurt me. And this guy said, oh man, we need to get her back in the car. And I was like, that's really sketch. Yeah. I didn't know what to do. So I thought, Hannah, this is none of your business. Keep walking. So I walked, obviously went to my car. And I thought, well, I hope this works itself out. Mm. And I turn out of the parking lot and I start driving, and then I see her, the girl in the parking lot next to Chick-fil-A. And I said, Lord, I'm about to do something really stupid. And I'm just going to need you to have my back on this. And so I pulled into that parking lot and I opened my window and I said, do you need a ride to this girl? And she says, yes. And she gets in my car. And so she gets in and I roll up the window and then I see this man sprinting to my car. Uh-oh. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. And so this is it. I thought we've been caught. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And so like this guy runs and coincidentally stops right in front of my car. It's like a movie. He's looking around every which way, trying to find this girl, not realizing that she's in the car that he's standing in front of.
Oh.
Yeah. And then he like is walking around. He walks across, like this is a service road or feeder road, whatever you like to call it. And he walks across. And because of who I am, I don't know why I did this. I open my window and I tell this guy, hey man, I got her and I'm going to take her home. I don't know why I did that. Because he starts yelling. He's like, what are you doing? Like, you know, and this girl like in my car, she's like, I want to go home. And I'm like, what's happening? And so I was like, okay, well, this is really weird. I'm going to drive off now. So I drive and then I find another parking lot and I pull over and this girl is so drunk. And I say, I need an address. And so she's like, she gives me one. And this whole time we're talking and talking and talking. She lived way out on a very eastern suburb of OKC. It was like an hour from SNU almost. It was crazy. But I was already 30 minutes out. So because Trinity takes 30 minutes to get to. So, so just 30 minutes the other way. And so, you know, we get there. The whole time we'd been talking, you know, she ended up talking about how she wanted to be a nurse and like, you know, all this stuff and how she grew up in the church. Because that's what I did. And I said, well, I'm at school right now. And so we talked about studies and I got to talk to her about, you know, she just kind of really was down on herself. And I talked about, well, when God made you, like he made you beautiful and good, you know, and so I got to speak at least just like a little bit of encouragement into that. And so I get to the address, I start pulling up and I think like the street is so full of cars. And I'm like, this is like such a full street. I don't know what's going on. And I finally pull up to the house where I'm supposed to drop her off. And the only thing that's in the driveway is an unmarked taxi cab. And I'm like, that is so sketch. And I thought I was about to get rushed, like that people were going to run out of the house and like grab us, you know, because I'm freaking out. I've never done this before. It's super sketch and late at night. And so, but, you know, I pull up and she gets out of the car. Nobody runs out of the house to get me. It's great. And then she leans back in the car, and like when you reach something like far over, you're kind of like put your knee on the seat and to reach further. Okay. Well, she like leans in, and she is literally like an inch from my face. And I thought, is this lady about to kiss me? I was like, what do I do? Because I've never been in this situation. So I was like, I'll just do whatever. But then all she does is say, thank you. I was like, you're welcome.
Just invaded your personal space to say thank you.
And then she gets out of the car and I drive away, and I never know what happened to her since, or, her or me, because life sometimes this isn't a crossing. And that was just so, if you're listening, don't ever do that. That could have ended so badly at so many points in time.
Right.
But I did that, and that was just such a crazy story. And yeah, now it's...
Man, I thought you were going to say she leaned in your car and just lost her lunch.
No, that would have been so funny. That's the last thing that threw my mind.
Man, so here's the thing. That was crazy. People should not do that unless the voice of God is like, hey, I need you to give them a ride somewhere else. But what you did was basically what you've been doing your whole time here in ministry with us. You planted seeds, or you watered a seed, because she had said, I grew up in church, or I've been part of church, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Hannah, that is one of the things that is awesome about you. You're always planting, you're always watering seeds. God's going to cause the growth. You've been planting and watering seeds in these kids for 5 years. Some of them have already moved on. Some of them are already or in college and things like that.
Graduating from college right now, some of them, yeah.
And then some of them are middle school, squirrely middle schoolers who, scream at the top of their lungs in a very high-pitched voice. So it makes me very excited about camp in a couple weeks. But God's going to cause the growth. And it might not be this summer. It might be next summer. It might be when they're a junior or senior. And so I just want to take a minute to say we're just so, so proud of you and so thankful for the work that you've given to both of our churches, to our families, and to the students here. And we are so much better because you are here. You are an absolute joy. I mean, you just really light up a place that you walk into, and you're just going to really be missed. And I'm going to try really hard not to cry. But we love you so much, and we just pray God would bless you, He would keep you, He would cause His face to shine upon you and give you His peace.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I feel like that's a good place to land, unless there was something else that you got any other crazy stories you want to share?
Oh, man. I don't have any other really crazy stories that are on the top of my mind, but I just want to give a quick thanks, 4 or 5 years of wonderful ministry. This is my first, obviously I'm kind of young. This is my first full-time position.
You're not kind of young. You're really
I know. No, I'm getting in. I just turned 27 a couple weeks ago, and I realized I'm not in my mid-20s anymore. I'm in my mid to late 20s, and I was, oh, wow. But, I think 30s are going to be great. I'm excited for my 30s. I think they're going to be the best years of my life. But yeah, this has been such a fun go at my first ministry position. Our students are wonderful, and I don't think you can get away from a conversation with me without talking about how much I love our students.
Right.
I talk about it all the time. They are on my mind 24/7.
Right.
I'm really interested in seeing how my life and brain develop and function in this next season, because if I'm not thinking about students or ministry 24/7, not that that's, it was really good. I say that because I'm blessed to have people that I love so deeply. I love that students trusted me. If they missed the bus, they'd call me and I'd go pick them up. Not my favorite phone calls, but still, I'm never not honored when somebody thinks of me when they need something. Yeah. Because it means they trust me, and I've just really, really, really loved learning and gaining great relationships. And something that you've told me that really stuck with me is youth ministry is ministry for 20 years from now. Because hopefully in 20 years, my students that I've gotten to pour into, even just a little bit, will be able to reach out and say, hey, let's grab lunch. I think we're in the same town together, or something like that. Just sounds like such a blessing. And I've been so blessed to work under your leadership and Darren's leadership. And if you're listening, I don't know what my next job is going to be. I don't know if this is looking like a career change for the season. I still have a call to ministry. It's something I absolutely plan to get back to if I don't end up in a full-time position here. But no matter where I end up, I absolutely intend to plug in and serve with students all the same, because I love students and I love ministry, and I want everybody in the church, if you're 29 or 99, I want you to love students.
Yes.
Because you were one once and you know how deeply you needed that love.
Right.
So, yeah, thank you for a wonderful 5 years.
Oh, man.
And I wish I would do it all over again, man. It's been great.
Well, as they say at Chick-fil-A, my pleasure. Another thing, I know we keep piling on here, but one thing that you have said repeatedly that has stuck in my heart is God is good all the time, even when our circumstances are not. Because, we've all had some crazy rough circumstances the last several years. And that has just been an encouragement to me. So your words have been very encouraging. And you're an excellent preacher. You're not done with ministry. It might not be your vocation, but you just keep on spreading the good word and telling people about Jesus, pointing people to him. And, God's going to bless that and use that. So well, I guess this is it. You gave me your keys.
Derek, this is our real goodbye. So podcast, you get to experience it.
I will not cry. I will not cry.
It's been real. It's been fun. And it's been real fun.
It has. And the cool thing about being part of God's family is you don't ever have to really say goodbye. It's just, I'll see you later.
Yeah. You know what? I'll end with this. One of the questions that Derek usually asks is something about, what is God teaching you right now?
I skip it.
Yeah. So I was really excited to talk about that. And I'll end it with this is Ecclesiastes 3 talks about seasons, and it talks about, is there a point to anything? Is there a point to everything? Is what leads up to this dialogue in chapter 3. And he talks about there's a season for joy and mourning and dancing and weeping and like all these different things. And what I love about it is that right after this thing that we usually read as like our seasons, which is good and noted because I'm entering a new one. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting to think that I'm going into this season for something that's good, but I think might end with mourning because I just don't know.
Right.
But what I love is tacked on right in the paragraph underneath that, I think, is that God has placed eternity on the human heart. Mm-hmm. And so what I can be sure of, and I would say to anyone who recognizes that we may not meet again in this lifetime, is that our eternity is set on our hearts. And when we have our faith rooted in Christ, I know without a doubt that my quality time is going to be filled in eternity, because you're not even going to be able to get rid of me. Right. And so I'm excited. I'm excited at the faith that we have because I rest in this promise of eternal community with the people that I love, even though I only served them for 5 years.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah.
So
that was a good investment.
If I don't see if you're listening to this and I don't see you again on this side of time, I'll see you on the other side.
Amen. Well, Hannah, thanks so much for sharing part of your story with us, the progress that God has done in your life, encouraging us, and we love you. Always will, no matter what.
Love you. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of People in Progress. If you'd like more information on Belton Nazarene Church, you can go to belton.church for our website. Or if you'd like to share your story on the podcast, please email Pastor Derek at derek@belton.church to set up a time. We are so glad you checked out this episode of People in Progress, because it is another way that we get to encourage each other to live like Jesus every day. Lastly, we are confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.